Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, unamulwanji, namaste, jambo, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast, an iHeartRadio Best Kids and Family Podcast Award nominee. We are so delighted and so very honored that you join us in our mission to help all families grow closer through reading. Please be sure to tell all of your family and friends about the show. Tell your kids' teachers, their librarians, their principal, and please be sure to subscribe to the show on the iHeartRadio app, on Audible, Amazon Music, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Good Pods, Podcast Addict, Ghana, Himalaya, wherever you find your podcasts. We want to invite all the authors and aspiring authors who are listening to the podcast to visit our website, readingwithyourkids.com. Please be sure to click on the Authors Click Here button at the top of the page to discover how we can help you celebrate your book with the entire world. Now, you know, if you are an author, especially an independent or self-published author, you probably had no idea that when you were writing your book and getting it published, you had no idea that once that book was published, that you became the CEO of a small business, your book business. Yeah, it is. It's a business now. And you had no idea that there are literally thousands of books published every single... You thought I was going to say year. No, there are thousands of books published every single month. It is so hard for a book to stand out in that crowd, especially an independent or sub-published book. But we would love to help you do that. If you visit readingwithyourkids.com and click on that Authors Click Here button, you will discover how you can be a guest here on the podcast. Being a guest gives you the chance to tell the world all about your book. It's fun, it's easy, and it doesn't cost you a thing. You can also learn about our Certified Great Read program. This is a program that has helped so many authors. You can also discover our monthly promotion program. We're really excited. We've helped so many authors to date, and we would love to help you. Please go to readingwithyourkids.com, click on that Authors Click Here button at the top of the page, and discover how we can help you celebrate your book with the world. Join us right now from the beautiful city of Chicago, where you could probably use a cardigan sweater right now. Our guest is here today to celebrate her brand new children's book. It's called The Cozy Cozy Cardigan. Please welcome to the podcast, Shyreen Lowe. Hey, Shireen, how are you?
Hey, thank you for having me.
Delighted to have you on. So this, you were sharing with me earlier that your name, Shireen, in Arabic, I think it means sweet, like the sweet taste, as opposed to being like a sweet story. The Cozy Cozy Cardigan sounds like a really sweet story. Tell us all about it.
It's so funny, like that is actually the adjective that a lot of people use to describe it. It is an absolutely sweet story. It starts with a mom who's a pilot and she has to work, goes to work, and she has a son who's very sad when she leaves. So the story focuses on separation anxiety and the emotions that young children have, like when a parent has to leave. And so she had knits this cardigan for him. And because, you know, she took so long on it, so many time, all this time on it, it was infused with her love and her sense, and it helped him calm down, and it helped him, gave him something physical to hold on to when she's not there. And in a sense, it kind of helps him through his separation anxiety, along with reminders from his mom that, you know, she loves him and everything whenever she leaves. But what I love about this story is that the boy actually grows up and he has a daughter of his own, and he recognizes the same behaviors that his daughter has that he experienced as a kid. And so he remembers the cardigan, he goes and get it, he gives it to his daughter, and somehow it becomes, I can't like give all the story away, somehow it becomes a family heirloom. It's traveled through generations, and I love that one of the things I wanted to do was create this, a continuance of this cardigan as sometimes we have like little things in our house, so we don't really, how I grew up, I had like a lot of little trinkets around, and they have like these profound stories behind them. And I really wanted to incorporate that in my book. So.
Well, I love that, and I certainly can relate to that. My mom wasn't a pilot, but my grandmother crocheted. She loved to crochet, and she crocheted a beautiful Afghan blanket for me, and for all her grandkids. But I was very, very close to my grandmother. She was one of my best friends, and it was really special to me. And it lasted, and it. You know, she would take it back like every year and repair it because I was a guy and I damage everything I touch. To the point where, you know, when she got older and she wasn't able to do it, right after she passed, it was in pretty rough shape and there wasn't much left of it. And when we finally had to say goodbye to it, it was really sad. And I was quite old at that time.
It just shows you that like objects can carry special meaning.
Mm-hmm.
I am touched that you mentioned your grandmother, because one of the inspirations behind this story was actually my mom as well.
Mm-hmm.
The first 2 pages when you open the book is a dedication to her. She passed 5 years ago, and initially I set out to write a book about grief, but I couldn't. The words weren't connected. You know, didn't make sense to me. And I ended up, instead of writing about a permanent leave, and I ended up writing about a temporary one. And it, when you say magic happened, and, magical mistakes, I call it a magical mistake. And the Cozy Cozy Cardigan was created. And I feel like we as adults can all resonate with this story. I wanted to create a book that is not just for kids, but can help parents and help any adult, maybe a grandparent or even an aunt or an uncle, just to find the words.
Mm-hmm.
It's so hard to find the words when you have a screaming child in front of you and you really don't know what to do. And I wanted to help write a book. I wrote it. I wanted to write a book that just to be a companion for parents, that you can sit their kid down, have the book in front of you, and you can read and say, hey, this is the same thing that you're feeling, the little boy in the book is feeling too. How about instead of a cardigan, we can use this teddy bear?
Mm-hmm.
That was my purpose, I guess.
Yeah.
For writing.
Well, I think it's beautiful. If I was still a social worker, and I haven't been one for over 40 years, so I'm going out on a limb, but I would say that you wrote about grief in a very special and unique way. And maybe a part of you that didn't want to write that book about grief, or wasn't letting you write that book about grief, was saying, no, me and Mom are going to get together at some point. So I just need to write about being away from her and just wait till we're back together again.
It's definitely a touching subject for me, and I'll try not to cry on your podcast.
Oh, go ahead. Everybody cries on my podcast.
But it is. I needed to write this. I worked as a nanny. You worked in social care, and I worked as a nanny still working as a nanny for over a decade now. And like one of the other reasons I knew I needed to write a book like this was that I am in a unique position to see firsthand the epic meltdowns that happen when a parent has to go, like, walk through the door, and a kid is left with, a caregiver. And there's a guilt behind that too as a parent, because I've spoken to a lot of parents in my field. And it's just a heaviness, because you don't know what to do, and you feel like it's a problem that, I won't say a problem, but it's for lack of a better word,
mm-hmm.
It's a problem that seems like there's no cure for it. As long as I exist, my child is gonna be sad when I leave.
Mm-hmm.
It's true
mm-hmm.
to some extent, but I feel like with this solution, which is actually a solution that a lot of psychologists use, to have an object that you can imbue with like a special meaning. Sometimes if it has your unique scent, your perfume, that's perfect too. It was just good just to have this idea for parents who don't know.
Mm-hmm.
new parents, young parents, millennial parents, like, you don't really know the tricks and trades of the business because you don't really, it doesn't come with a manual. Wish they did, but they don't. Kids really don't come with a manual. So I definitely wanted to appeal to parents. I wanted to appeal to kids because the illustrations are beautiful.
Yeah.
And I wanted to create something that is useful, that is meaningful, that is sweet, that will pull on heartstrings, hopefully shed a tear somewhere, one or two. Happy tears, sad tears, I'll take them all. But, I wanted to create something that moves you, moves the heart.
Yeah.
I hope I did that.
Well, I think you did. And, I want to talk a little bit about this. You were talking about kids don't come with a manual, and they don't. And it's because every kid is different. And unlike your car, as we say here in Boston, unlike your car, every little noise in the vehicle is probably caused by the same thing. Whatever vehicle you get into, you hear that noise. Kids, they're crying for different reasons, and they need to be comforted in different ways. And I think a lot. We talk a lot here on the podcast about social emotional learning, and the fact that we're talking about feelings now, and that's a really, really good thing. And sometimes I think our parents and past generations get a bad rap because they say, well, they didn't talk, and we didn't. I mean, we didn't talk a lot about emotions, and someone died, and it was like, you're not going to see them, don't talk about it, and quiet. And that's not a good thing. But, this idea of passing on a cardigan, an Afghan, a special memento to help comfort kids, there's some kind of instinctual wisdom, I think, that we've shared that I hope we don't get rid of as we're adding this new social emotional learning stuff. I hope we don't forget about the fact that a cardigan that was made with love and infused with love can really be just as helpful, if not more helpful, than sitting with a psychologist for 2 months.
I agree with you. I think, listen, I'm Jamaican by heritage, and let me tell you, doesn't get any more tough love than that. So that is one of the reasons why I made the son grow up in the book and had a daughter, because I think we learn things from obviously we learn things from our parents, and I want to say, there's this phrase that says to break a generational curse. I hate that phrase, but I wanted to do that same thing. I wanted him to learn from his upbringing and bring it forward so that we can acknowledge feelings. We can not just validate feelings that kids have, and then we can do something about it. Mm-hmm. It's important for him it was important for him to see that she had the same issues that he did, understand that and there's a scene in the book where he sat with her and he talked to her about his past, told her about his mom, and validated how she felt. Yeah. Not being upset when I leave is not a bad thing. It's just that, we're gonna work through it together. And so he told her about the cardigan, and then he went and got it, and then he showed it to her, and the story continues from there. But I understand, I agree with you, and I think you're correct. I don't want us to lose, the joy. I want to say joy, or the traditions that we created, from our cultures, from our histories, from our families. Yeah. That's important. And I think the family unit is so, the family histories and stuff like that is super important. Yeah. From my background, I grew up with very strong women. Taught me a lot, and there's so many stories. Well, I definitely don't want us to lose that going forward, as a society.
Absolutely. Hey, the other thing I love about this story, as you're telling us about it, is that it has a strong, caring dad.
Yes.
And that's one thing that unfortunately we don't see enough of these days. We do see dads, but too often the dads that kids see not so much in kids' books, but it's there, but especially in the media that they're experiencing, like the movies and the cartoons that they're watching. A lot of the dads are buffoons. And they're the butt of jokes. And, it's like,
More inclined to sport. Like, I feel like there's not a lot of mental, I'm a huge advocate for mental health. And I think, like you said, like I didn't even realize I did that, but subconsciously I did. I actually made a guy, and I am, because I'm Jamaican, so I'm African American, so I wanted my characters to be African American as well, because we don't talk about these things in our culture, regardless. And so I wanted to show the father in that light, because you are correct. We don't see men talking about like emotional things with their children often or enough. Mm-hmm. As they should. It does happen, but it's not portrayed in media as much as it should be.
Yeah. I love it. And I especially love, the relationship between a dad and a daughter, because I love my son. We have a great relationship right now. I'm very proud of him, very wonderful young man. But the relationship I had with my daughter was very different and very special and very meaningful. And I'm equally proud of the young woman that she's become. But there's a big part of me that misses those days when both of them were young, but especially when my daughter was young, and we would have those dad-daughter moments.
Yes, I definitely wanted to connect him with a daughter for my personal reasons, but mainly because I feel like girls need their dads. It's important. I grew up without one, so I think that's probably another self-conscious thing I did without even knowing. You're just showing me all my stuff. Like, thank you. Like, you're just like, do I need to go to therapy after this? Like, what's happening? But no, like, I think I needed to switch the roles a little bit. I started with a mom, so I needed to start with a dad. And then I also wanted the boy to grow up and, carry on the tradition, like I said, so.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because you mentioned a couple of times, like, I wanted to do this, but then, I don't know, I went down the road and somehow I did this and I came out with this thing that I'm really proud of, and I didn't plan on doing a dad thing, but I did it, and maybe self-conscious. I think that that's really wonderful. I think that there are too oftentimes authors sit down with the intention of, I need to teach this lesson, and so I need to take this and, the story is not quite fitting that lesson. Now, let me get this hammer here, and I'm going to bang this in there, make it fit. And art doesn't work like that. So, real art that touches a heart has to come from a heart.
I'm led by my heart. Like that is my whole thing in life. Like, if it tells me to go pack up my bags and move to New Zealand, that's what I'm doing. I mean, well, with some planning.
Well, you haven't moved there yet. You went from New York to Chicago, and some people would say that's like moving to New Zealand from New York.
It's a whole different world here. But no, like I am moved by what my mind and my heart and my intuition tells me. Like I told you, like I set out to do a certain thing, but that's not what my art led me to. Mm-hmm. It led me to a book about separation anxiety, another book about grief.
Yeah. You mentioned on your website that you've always loved to write and express yourself through words. Have you taken the time, because we're talking a lot about your heart, and it's obvious that you wear your heart on your sleeve, and that's a great thing. It also makes you kind of vulnerable, and that's not a bad thing. It's a hard thing, but it's not a bad thing. Have you ever taken the time to sit down and to think about the fact that this book, the Cozy Cozy Cardigan, there are going to be families, it could be one, it could be two, it could be thousands of families that are going to sit down and read the Cozy Cozy Cardigan, and maybe at the end of that story, the mom is going to pull out a teddy bear or a cardigan or something to help their child deal with their separation anxiety. And those moments would have been made possible by your words and the words that you put together while you were by yourself.
I want to say this. I suffer from extreme anxiety, like in general. And that right there, you're just reading me like a book today, but that right there is the one reason why I kept going. One of my friends always joke and call me like I'm a jack of all trades with a master of none, because I rarely finish what I start because of my anxiety. And I kept going with this book because of that image right there of helping. And I said to my sibling, I said to her, or them, I said to them, like, if I sell one book out of this whole thing, just one, I'll be okay, because that's one kid's life that I touched.
Yeah.
And that's why I do what I do for 10 years. That's why I nanny, I go into people's houses and I take care of it and I help raise their children, because I want to leave the world better than I found it. Yeah. Like one kid at a time. That is why I do what I do.
And so you're doing this thing that's making a difference in kids' lives, but somehow you're still anxious. I think maybe Shireen needs to sit down and take a nice deep breath and realize what sweetness she's bringing into the world.
Hey, I'm working on it. It's a work in progress, but like to this day, like the book is out. It is out in the world, but I am still like, is it good enough? Will people love it? Will it help? Will a child understand the words? Like, I am still second guessing myself, but that's normal. That's human. Mm-hmm. I believe 100% in what I want to do. I believe in my art, and I believe that this book will help somebody. I may not know that person, but it will help somebody, at least one person.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I am confident in being somebody that's almost 100 years old. One of the things that I've learned in my life is that we do, especially somebody like you who has this wonderful heart and is brave enough to share it and to brave enough to be vulnerable, that you are making a difference in people's lives. And you're going to hear about it at some point, but it might not be until you're like my age, like almost 100 years old. But that's okay.
Listen, I will be grateful if I live to see your age. Like, honestly, like, I would be, please.
Well, we want you to live to be almost 100 years old, because that means that you'll be able to put out many, many more books.
Yes, I'm working on a second and a third one as we speak. But
awesome. Now, is there something that you really want to write about really, really badly that you're going to start writing about and then write about something else? But what you can just tell us what it is you think you want to write about, and then we'll find out later on when you come back to the show if things changed up.
Well, I definitely want to touch on another topic that I think I've encountered a lot in my field, is when like a new sibling arrives, which is a very common theme for books, I know, but I want to put my little twist on it, my little spin on it. Awesome. And I'm currently working on that as we speak. So hopefully I can come back and speak about that one.
You are welcome anytime at all. But before you go, we should probably tell people where they can go to find out more about you and find out more about the Cozy Cozy Cardigan and your other books.
Yes. You can go to my website, svlow.com. My book is also on Amazon. It's on Barnes & Noble, Target, wherever books are sold, actually. But my Instagram, s.p.low. Yeah, you can find all sorts of little, information there and fun. I do a lot of fun stuff on my Instagram, honestly and truly. So definitely check that out.
Awesome. We've had a really sweet time speaking to the author of the Cozy Cozy Cardigan. Our guest has been Shyreen Lowe. Shireen, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been truly an honor, and happy holidays.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast, and will join us for the next exciting episode of the show. We are so grateful that you're part of our beautiful Reading with Your Kids family. We'd love for you to connect with us on social media, facebook.com/Reading with Your Kids, @Reading with Your Kids on Instagram, @Jedley Magic on Twitter. If you are on LinkedIn, please connect with Jed Doherty. We also have a Reading with Your Kids page on LinkedIn. We would love for you to visit our website, readingwithyourkids.com. Authors, click on the Authors Click Here button to find out how you can be a guest here on the show and find out how we can help you celebrate your book with the world. And also, parents, please be sure to visit readingwithyourkids.com to download our free online magazine. Hey, we want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful. Of course, we want to start by thanking our amazing guest. I also want to thank my team, Fatima Khan, Rory Grady, Chris Doherty, Ann O'Leary, Soji Franklin. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. Most of all, we all want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And thank you so much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.